There was a golden glow cast across the undulating green fields and the exuberant spectators that had assembled for the Belmont Derby Invitational as the sun hung low over the famous Saratoga racecourse. On the 4th of July 2025, the atmosphere was electrifying with the excitement of the impending celebration of Independence Day. At the same time as relatives and friends dressed in red, white, and blue filled the stands, the aroma of freshly cut grass blended with the aroma of barbecued ribs and cotton candy. On this particular day, the Belmont Derby, which is considered to be the most prestigious horse race in the United States, was more than just a sporting event. It was a celebration of the spirit of the nation, a moment where tradition, patriotism, and artistic expression all came together. And at the center of this celebration was Sofronio Vasquez, the winner of The Voice, whose heartfelt performance of America the Beautiful would set the stage for a day that would be remembered for a very long time. In the moments leading up to the opening ceremonies, there was a complete silence among the attendees. Vasquez, a rising star whose singing prowess had captured millions of people on national television, was introduced by the announcer, whose voice resounded over the speakers. The Filipino-American singer, who is well known for his deep baritone and emotive range, walked out onto the field with a microphone in his hand. He was dressed in a classic blue suit with a delicate American flag pin glinting on his lapel. An outpouring of acclaim erupted from the gathering, but as soon as he lifted his hand, a respectful silence descended upon the audience, ready to accept his gift. When Vasquez began singing the opening words, his voice began quietly, almost like a whisper carried on the breeze. He sang, "Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain." He spoke in a manner that was friendly, deliberate, and brimming with sincerity that appeared to penetrate the very core of each and every listener. Each note painted a realistic picture of America's enormous landscapes, including the rolling grasslands, the towering mountains, and the glistening coasts. The melody unfolded like a love letter to the land, and it was a beautiful thing to listen to. Those in the audience stood motionless, some with their hands placed over their hearts, while others softly swayed, all of them unified in the moment. Not only did Vasquez possess a high level of technical expertise, but he also had the capacity to imbue the song with a profoundly personal resonance, which combined to make his performance truly remarkable. After being born to parents who had immigrated to the United States, Vasquez frequently discussed his journey to embrace the American ideal, a narrative that was reflected in his delivery. His voice rose with pride as he sang about the Purple Mountain majesties, not only because of the beauty of the land, but also because of the promise that it held, a promise of opportunity, resilience, and unification. It is a monument to the enduring power of music to connect generations and cultures that the words, which were written by Catherine Lee Bates more than a century ago, began to feel as though they had been reborn in his hands. This moment was perfectly set against the backdrop of the Saratoga racecourse, which has a long and illustrious history that dates back to the year 1863. Saratoga, more commonly referred to as the Graveyard of Champions, has experienced its fair share of victories and defeats, much like the nation that it commemorated. On the occasion of Independence Day, the track was decked out with bunting in colors that were representative of the United States, and American flags were proudly flapping in the breeze. The Belmont Derby Invitational is a prestigious turf race for 3-year-old thoroughbreds, and it attracted some of the best horses and jockeys from all over the world. However, it was Vasquez's performance that set the tone, reminding everyone why they had gathered in the first place: to honor a nation that was built on dreams and determination. When Vasquez reached the second verse, which began with the words, "Oh, beautiful for pilgrim feet," whose stern impassioned stress, his voice took on a new level of intensity inside the poem. He sung of the sacrifices made by those who had come before, the pioneers and immigrants who had forged routes across unexplored places, and the freedoms that are enjoyed today are a direct result of their footsteps. Those statements appeared to have a significant impact on the gathering, which consisted of a wide assortment of people hailing from every region of the country. While some people wiped tears from their eyes, others nodded gravely, and a few little children, who were perched on their parents' shoulders, waved tiny flags, staying loyal to his background as a contestant on The Voice, added modest vocal runs that gave the song a contemporary edge while still maintaining its regard for centuries to come. During the chorus, his arrangement, which was supported by a small orchestra consisting of strings and brass, grew significantly, filling the open air with a sound that was both majestic and personal. The final line, which read, "And crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea," soared into the heavens, and his voice held the note with such force that it appeared to bring the entire assembly to their feet. There was a resounding cry of thanks and pride that reverberated throughout the Saratoga grounds, and the applause that followed was overwhelming. As the final chords went away, Vasquez lowered his head in a respectful manner, his grin expressing gratitude. However, the buzz in the air had changed by the time the speaker came back to formally commence the Belmont Derby Invitational. The performance by Vasquez had accomplished more than just entertaining the audience. It had brought them together in a moment of collective celebration and introspection. The event served as a timely reminder that Independence Day is not solely about fireworks and barbecues, but rather about the principles that bind a nation together, such as liberty, diversity, and the pursuit of happiness. The races that followed were exhilarating, with elegant thoroughbreds thundering down the turf, their hooves churning up clouds of dust as jockeys spurred them toward the finish line. In the Belmont Derby, a race that runs over a distance of 1.5 miles, the speed and grace of equine athletes were displayed. Each horse was a representation of the strength and enthusiasm that characterizes American sports. Despite the fact that spectators shouted enthusiastically as the horses rounded the last curve, the recollection of Vasquez's voice lingered, a melody that seemed to accent every moment of the day. On the other hand, the celebrations that took place at Saratoga exemplified the happiness that the 4th of July brings. Over the course of the day, families enjoyed a picnic on blankets that were laid out across the lawn. Children chased each other with sparklers, and vendors sold a wide variety of items, ranging from handmade apple pie to star-spangled caps. Following the performance of patriotic music by a local band, a fireworks display would light up the sky, painting it in bursts of red, white, and blue. This would take place as the sun began to set. However, the performance that Vasquez gave was, for many people, the most memorable part of the day. It was a moment that perfectly encapsulated the spirit of the occasion. Taking into consideration the bigger picture, Vasquez's arrival at Saratoga was a reflection of the changing cultural scene in the United States. As he went from being a dreamer from a little village to being a national sensation, his journey was similar to that of countless other people who have found a place to call home in our country. It was especially poignant that he chose to sing "America the Beautiful," a song that praises both the land and its people, at a time when unity and understanding are more necessary than they have ever been. The gathering was reminded by Vasquez, through his voice, that the beauty of the United States of America is not only in its landscapes, but also in its capacity to welcome all those who make it their home. The throng dispersed as the day drew to a conclusion, taking with them the enthusiasm of the celebration as well as the reverberation of Vasquez's song. It was a victory not only for the winners on the track, but also for the spirit of a nation that continues to strive toward its values. The Belmont Derby Invitational had been a triumph. The day was filled with happiness, introspection, and pride because of Sofronio Vasquez's beautiful version of "America the Beautiful," which had set the stage for the day. America, a land of expansive skies, amber oceans, and the everlasting promise of freedom, wishes you a happy Independence Day.